No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show, presented by Play Now, the official sports betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets, starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. And for all those joining us live, wherever it is you're joining us live, good evening and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. As you can tell, these are the dulcet tones of Dave Manouk. I'm joined by my main man, Ezzy Ginsburg. Drew Mandel taking today's show off, Ezzy. So he is showing off by taking today's game off. For a minute there, I heard a beep. I thought that was Drew. It's, of course, Colby Spence getting us ready for the post-game show with Scott Arneal. But we are here to talk about the first Jets loss I was going to call it the All-Star break, as the post-Olympic break. The Jets were 4-0-2. That is no more, now 4-1-2 after a 4-1 loss to the Anaheim Ducks, a game in which they were thoroughly outclassed by the first-place team in the Pacific, despite the fact that Anaheim came into today's game with a -10 goal differential and a losing record on the road. As they outclassed the Jets, outshot them 34-13. And you're not going to win very many hockey games when you can't put many shots on the net. And that's exactly what happened. And the Jets lose 4-1. So with that, Ez, I bring you into the post-game show to give me your initial thoughts and share those with the chat.
Yeah, Dave, you mentioned outclassed, and really that's what I thought happened today. I just thought that, for the most part, the Ducks controlled the pace of play. They were all over the Jets. Second period, especially when the shots were 20-5 in favor of the Ducks, but the Jets just didn't have enough going offensively. And considering that, they started the game 5 points back, they're not going to end the game 5 points back because Seattle is currently up 2-0. So the best they can do is remain 5 points back, but there's a good chance they're going to be 7 points back if the Kraken hold on to defeat. I think they're playing Nashville. Yeah, they're playing Nashville. They're up 2-0 right now. So considering the stakes, there just wasn't enough urgency I felt in their game, right? And this Anaheim team is very good. You mentioned, Dave, they're first in the Pacific. You forget, right? Troy Terry, one of their best players, was not in the lineup. He wasn't in the lineup last week when the Jets played the Ducks. Guess who else wasn't in the lineup? John Carlson. Remember him? Yeah, they acquired him at the trade deadline. He wasn't in the lineup either. So, can you imagine if those two guys were in the lineup? Yeah, and yes, the Jets are missing some pieces. Neil Pionk out of the lineup, Niederreiter and Nemesnikov. But when you're talking about Troy Terry and John Carlson, all due respect to the Jets players I just mentioned, Dave, those are big difference makers. So I think this Ducks team is a team that should be feared in the playoffs. I really do. I think there's other teams in the league that I would put above them in terms of being Stanley Cup contenders. But when you talk about whether it's Colorado or Dallas or Carolina or Tampa Bay, there's other teams that are emerging, young teams like Anaheim, Buffalo over there in the Eastern Conference. They won again tonight. Logan Stanley got into his first fight as a member of the Buffalo Sabres, right, Dave? So did the
Jets a favor by beating San Jose?
Yes, they did. Unfortunately, the Jets didn't move anywhere in the standings, though. That's the thing, right? So you do them a favor, but like I mentioned, Seattle's the team you're chasing, and they're up 2-0 right now. So I think they're going to be most likely 7 points back by the time the night is over. But this just wasn't a good enough effort by the Jets. Simply put, there just wasn't enough pressure. Look, they had a few power plays. Anaheim didn't give them a ton, but they couldn't take advantage on the power play in the third period, right? And it was a brief power play, the second power play, the third power play. But Anaheim just took it to the Jets, and they were all over them. Thought they were just like killer bees out there with all the pressure and all the speed. And I thought they just controlled the neutral zone, Dave. I know it's a cliche, but I just thought that for the most part, all the Jets could do is either dump the puck in, or they were getting stopped at the blue line by the Ducks. This Ducks defense, like we mentioned, they're going to get John Carlson, but it's a very talented group, a very good team, and the Jets just didn't make it hard enough on the Ducks. You can't win a lot of hockey games when you don't have the puck, and the Ducks had the puck for the most of this game.
I think it's a perfect way of looking at it, Ezzy. I think the shot attempts were like 41 to the Jets were in the teens, I believe. They might have been low 20s. I'm not certain. But I mean, Anaheim just possessed the puck almost the entirety of that hockey game. And you watched it and you thought to yourself, okay, well, the Jets are lucky to get through this game. You're 0-0 after one, right? And so you're thinking they probably don't deserve it because at one point the shots were 8-1. And you're thinking, Connor Hellebuck had made some good saves. Jets aren't really doing anything, but it's a 0-0 game. Okay, well, we've seen this game. We've seen this story before, right, Ez? So maybe they can, pull out some magic. But we know they got things started in the second period. They looked like they kind of came out with a little flow in that second, but it was the wilting, right? I mean, it's one thing to give up the game tying goal fairly shortly after Morgan Barron gave you the lead, but 14 seconds after you give up the goal to give up another one. I don't want to ruin the game recap, which we're going to bring you after we hear from head coach Scott Arneal, but that to me is the element of this Jets team that shows I don't know, you can't afford, everybody knows the stakes. Like, it's not like these guys aren't aware, right? As that they, like you just said, I mean, this had a chance to be within 3 points. If Seattle loses, to be within 3 points of Seattle, which is now going to be most likely a 7-point deficit. And I know folks don't want us talking about playoffs, but again, your playoffs numbers jumped from 5% a week ago when you were 11 points back to 17% when you're only 5 points back. And, you have some games that are winnable hockey games. Now we know it's going to be tough. St. Louis is playing very good hockey right now. Colorado obviously is playing very good hockey. So the weekend set on Saturday, Sunday, not going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination. But at the end of the day, we still have to talk about the games that we're watching and the ramifications and the results. So, this to me was a game there. You just didn't have the ability to take your foot off the gas. I know it's very hard. I mean, let's be realistic, as they weren't going to go 8-0 on this homestand, but this was a game where you probably should have been able to kind of address things in that first intermission because you didn't have a very good first period, but you're still 0-0. And then for them to kind of have that collapse in the course of a minute 44 to 3 goals, that's the hockey game.
Just going back to the first period, they only had 2 shots. And when Gus Nyquist is looking like your most dangerous forward, and he had 3 shots on net tonight, and I thought he was one of the Jets' most dangerous forwards. Remember, he had that rush. He drove the net in the first period. Aside from that, I mean, there was nothing. I mean, like, 2 shots speaks for itself. Right? Mm-hmm. Like, you don't really need to add too much to that. You're not going to win a lot of hockey games, especially when you're at home and you should be desperate and you're fighting for your playoff lives. And that's all you can muster up. And then you could only muster up 5 shots in the second period. Right. So, I mean, that's, I think, partly because of how good the Ducks are, and they were playing the Jets really tough. And the Ducks, I don't know how they lost to the St. Louis Blues, but they were coming off of an embarrassing loss at home to the St. Louis Blues. So you knew the Ducks were going to be hungry because they're battling Vegas right now for first in the Pacific, right? We just talked about that, right? So it's not like, Anaheim has nothing to play for. They're trying to get home ice advantage in the first round of the playoffs, right? So I thought that they were really impressive tonight. But again, the Jets just, the Scheifele line I thought had moments. Like it was almost like it wasn't until Hellebuck was pulled in the third period that the Scheifele, Connor, Velarde line, Iafallo line really kind of got going, right? And that's a problem when it takes you 57 minutes in a game to get going. I thought they had some decent looks.
Here comes Scott Arneal. We'll come back to our thoughts after.
Tonight's game, how do you explain the level that Anaheim played at compared to you guys?
We laid a big fat egg. We didn't execute. We didn't compete on pucks. Chase the game. Chase the whole game. It was just, they had the puck most of the night, and when we did have it, we turned it over. We didn't put it down low enough in their defensive zone to make them go to work. Just fed their transition, turnovers just inside the line or just outside the line, and we're too good of a hockey team to transition the other way. We just kind of kept feeding it.
Sometimes in games like this, you guys get a bunch of chances and it's just not going. In this case, there were some kind of offsides that we don't normally see. There were some not getting back after giveaways that we don't normally see. Was there a moment that things kind of went off the rail? Was it from the opening?
No, I think that one was throughout the lineup. Everybody was off. that was one of those nights where we couldn't make tape-to-tape pass or make 2 or 3 in a row. We didn't. Like I said, we didn't get over top of pucks and battle for them. There was a lot of – everybody was missing. It was one of those nights that on a night where, we knew we had to be at our very, very best, against a very good team, that we didn't. We weren't good enough.
Sometimes your coaches maybe say, well, in a sense, this was coming. We could feel it or see it in our play. But we haven't seen that at all in recent play, right? So in that sense, it's safe to say you're kind of surprised that your team came out this way?
Yeah, very surprised. I mean, since the break, we've been pretty good, pretty competitive. Whether maybe there are spurts of, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe the odd period, but where we're off, where we found our game again. We never found our game tonight.
Obviously, with the position you're in, there is margin for error, but it's slim. So I guess now the tension quickly turns to how do you respond to this? Right?
That's the frustrating if you look at the scoreboard. All those teams lost, and you need to gain ground when that happens, and we're not gaining ground obviously today.
Just wanted to ask, on that third goal, did you guys take a look closely at whether that might have been offside? And were you considering, or one of them, Connor, looked like he was maybe?
No, that was because the guy drove Fleury into our net, into Helly's stick. The puck was on the way. We just felt the puck was already on its way in, and that was where he was kind of asking a question about.
You were clear in an earlier answer that it was team, it was top to bottom and all of that. So I'm not sure if this is an avenue you want to go down. But you have your most expensive players and your players with letters today: Connor, Scheifele, Velarde, Morrissey, Lowry, and there isn't a shot on goal from those players. So, is this a moment where they've got to step up, or was it seriously top to bottom?
Well, if we're going to get in, our top players have to be our top players. Said that from the beginning. But everybody else has to also play their roles, and it was throughout the lineup. The part about getting shots, we didn't have the puck. Anaheim had the puck most of the night. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you.
As he helps when I take myself off mute, and the way he goes, there goes head coach Scott Arneal from the Matt Frost Media Center, not really mincing words to start things off. We laid an egg is the way he described it, and hard to describe it any other way when your team produces all of 13 shots in a hockey game, 2 in the first period. So anything of note from the head coach in his comment as?
Well, you could hear the frustration. It was obviously a short post-game presser.
Yeah.
But for me, what was of most of note is that he said multiple times, Arneal, that is, said that, this was a team loss. And he was asked about it, that last question by Murat, referencing, the stars of this team, the core of this team, Scheifele, Connor. We know the players that we just heard, the players that Murat mentioned didn't have a shot on net. And Arneal quickly deflected and said, we didn't have the puck. And that's what we said at the top of this post-game show, Dave. They didn't have the puck. They were chasing the game. And obviously, there was a opportunity to clear the puck on the Alex Killorn goal, the 3-1 goal. Yeah. I think that was the third goal.
The third goal was the Killorn goal, yeah.
Yeah, that was when Koepke and Fleury were near the Jets' blue line, and they couldn't clear it out. And then Ryan Poehling kept it in, right? And then led to Killorn's goal. And it was just, to me, not a crisp game for the Jets. Mm-hmm. There wasn't a lot of sustained offense, a lot of sustained pressure, and they were just defending most of the game, simply put, right? And I think, when you're defending most of the game, it's hard to create offense. We hear that all the time, but it's true. And so that's why earlier, Dave, I said, the Jets didn't play well, but the Ducks did play really well. So I think it's a combination of the two things. And I just didn't think that, and Craig Button mentioned this on the broadcast, and he was saying, you look at Anaheim's defense, we talked about that defense. Whether it's Jacob Trouba, Jackson Lacombe, who just represented the USA at the Olympics, Olin Zellweger, Pavel Mintyukov, mm-hmm. Dave, 2022 10th overall pick. Yep. Those offensive numbers might not jump out like some other players in the league, but this is a really good defenseman. This is a mobile group of defensemen. They're constantly jumping up into the rush, jumping up into the zone. It's not like they're just picking their spots and jumping up into the play. They're active all over. It's almost like they have a fourth forward at all times on the ice. So Craig Button mentioned what I was going to get to is he mentioned that, the Jets need to just, dump the puck in and, create a forecheck, create a cycle, get something going down low. And I just didn't think they had that, right? Like we didn't see, like obviously Morgan Barron gets the lone Jets goal, but we didn't see that line really do much down low. We didn't see the Lowry line do much down low. There wasn't enough offense. Forget shots. There just wasn't even enough opportunities for them to get shots. So it was tough sledding out there for the Jets. That's for sure. I mean, Anaheim, let's be honest, Dave, Anaheim came into not my house, came into Canada Life Center and absolutely dominated the Jets. And that's why you got to give them full marks. This Ducks team is good. They're very well coached by Joel Quenneville. I mean, I think, you have to really look at yourselves in the mirror after this game and regroup, because this was not a good enough effort tonight, especially when you're considering, the Jets are in a fight for their playoff lives right now.
Well, and that's just it. And I think that's where you could hear the frustration from the coaching staff or from head coach Scott Arneal. And obviously we didn't listen to the media availabilities with the players, but I suspect they realize that this is an opportunity lost. Like we said, LA lost, they lost in overtime, but this was like I had suggested, although it's 2-1, Nashville's got a little closer as to they scored to make it a 2-1 game. So there's going to be, I feel like for the final 20 games or 19 games, whatever's left, we're going to be doing a lot of scoreboard watching, at least for the next little bit.
Well, that's a situation where anybody gets points. That's not a good thing for you, right? So
exactly. So, but like you said, the ultimate, like, doesn't really matter what San Jose, LA are doing. Really, all you have to focus on is who is that final team right now in the wild card, which currently is the Seattle Kraken. So that is for the Jets. But of course, we're going to be doing the game recap for the Winnipeg Jets and the Anaheim Ducks. So let's get into it right now.
The Play Now game recap.
The Legal Curve post-game show brought to you by our friends at Play Now. They are Manitoba's safe and number one site for all of your gambling needs. So if you have anything, use our friends at Play Now. And of course, gamble responsibly, right? So, first period, not really much happening. It looked like it was going to start off okay for the Jets. They got a little chance early, but then I don't know that they touched the puck much after that. They did again at the end of the period, but like you said, Gus Nyquist will isolate the few plays that the Jets made that were nice. Well, we should probably mention before we get into some of the things, some of the milestones they were recognized. Josh Morrissey scored, of course, the OT winner that set him up as the number one points producer amongst defensemen, which we mentioned on the last broadcast, but they honored him for that. And then, of course, on Monday, Mark Scheifele, after his 3-goal, 5-assist performance over the last 3 games prior to the end of this weekend, he was named first star of the NHL. 2 of those goals were game winners for Mark Scheifele. So they were recognized, milestone also, because, fun fact, Connor Hellebuck knocked Dustin Byfuglien out of the top 10 on all-time games played list. I think he played game 610. And why am I telling you folks the minutia? Because that was pretty much the most interesting thing that happened in that first period. There wasn't much of anything going on, but like we talked about, 0-0. Gus Nyquist, as you mentioned, Desi, he gets the chances at the beginning of the period. I think he had the chance. He set up the chance for Isaac Rosen, which it was a nice kick save that was made on the play, but nice move by Nyquist to kind of put his head down and go drive to the net. But other than that, as you mentioned, not a lot to talk about other than the Ducks kind of pouring the pressure on in that first.
Well, yeah, that's really all you can talk about, really, because like you said, Dave, Gus Nyquist had the drive to the net where Isaac Rosen had a chance. And I thought, there were some flashes, I would say, just, before we get into the goals or talk more about the first period. I think, you see his ability to create space for himself with that speed, and he's got some nice hands, and he can find some open ice. He doesn't get on the score sheet or anything like that, and I don't think he had a game where you would want to write home about it. But you can see the skill set, right? And I think that's why the Jets want to give him a longer leash. They want to see. They're not. The plan wasn't to give him 1 or 2 games, see how he does, and then take him out of the lineup, right? They're going to most likely play him for the majority of the season. But yeah, the first period, like, led by the Carlson line, that's the line with Chris Kreider and Cutter Gauthier. They didn't like, all the damage in this game came from the third and fourth lines in terms of the goals.
Yeah.
But the speed and the offense that created, like Beckett Seneca, I remember he had a good chance in the first period. Seneca, I realize, he's in tough to win the Calder Trophy, but Seneca, because of obviously Matthew Schaefer, but Seneca, to me, I don't know how he's not a finalist at this point. There's a lot of hockey to be played, but that Seneca is a really good player, good Canadian boy. And I just thought that they just had waves of offense, and they were getting into the Jets zone way too easily. They were winning a lot of one-on-one puck battles, and I just didn't think that the Jets had a response. And I think that's why they only ended up having 2 shots on net, because they didn't have the puck. They were under pressure. And when, Hellebuck did come up with some saves, they just got the puck out and they were happy with that. And then the Ducks would just come back in with another wave of offense, right? So I just thought that the Ducks' speed was overwhelming for the Jets. And yeah, that first period was, when you look at this homestand, the first 3 games went pretty well. But this game, I don't think it could have gone any worse, to be honest with you, in that first period. Yeah, the only thing that was good about it was that the Ducks didn't have anything to show for it. So you go into the first intermission and you're thinking, we got badly outplayed. And, it was still a tie game. So that was the best part of the first period, I thought.
Yeah. And I think, it's funny you mentioned Beckett Seneca, but he's a guy, if you watched Colby Barlow, the Jets 2023 first rounder, when he was playing with Oshawa after he got dealt from Owen Sound, you got to see the two of them play together in 24-25. So Jets fans, if they watch those Oshawa General games, they would have heard his name quite a bit, because those two guys were often finding each other on the score sheet for the Generals back in the OHL days. But of course, this is the NHL days, and there was no score sheet in that first period. But that changed. That all changed in the second, because you thought, hey, maybe the Jets woke up. They started to move a little quicker, I should say. And 5 minutes and 4 seconds into that second period, Morgan Barron, he's into double digits. He gets his 10th of the year, goes to the front of the net, uses that big body to try and create a little havoc. Elias Salamonson, although I got to tell you, Roseanne called him Salmonson. So we're going to have to get some clarity on that. He takes a shot from the point, his first NHL assist to go along with his first NHL goal. And Cole Perfetti, of course, the player who got the puck to the point with that Salamonson fired on net. So you kind of thought to yourself, okay, here they go. The Jets have themselves a goal. It's kind of a greasy one, but good on Morgan Barron for going to the front of the net, and good on the team for kind of just trying to get a puck on net, because it's not something they did very well in the first period.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right, Dave? Like, there's a lot to like about this goal. It's a hardworking goal, but we just didn't see, like you said, enough of this either in the first period or the second period or the third period, for that matter. And I love Morgan Barron's work here on the goal. Like, not just the tip, but I love the fact that, first off, he bowls over Mintyukov in front of the net, and Mintyukov is a big boy. Yep. Morgan Barron's also a big boy. But I love how he goes right to the net and bowls Mintyukov over. And yeah, it's a beautiful tip. It's a nice low shot by Salamonson. I don't know about you, Dave, but originally I actually thought Salamonson got it. And then, quickly Dan Robertson and Kevin Sawyer noticed that. I knew Barron was in front of the net, but yeah, that's just me. Maybe I thought Salamonson originally got the goal. I just thought it was maybe a low shot that Dostal didn't see, but it was a really nice tip by Morgan Barron. And like we said, it would have been nice if there was more of these types of plays, but they just didn't seem to have a lot of dynamic offense tonight, right? Like, I don't know if you would call that dynamic, but they just didn't have a lot going on, simply put. And it's unfortunate that Anaheim scores right after, because, like you said, Dave, the first 4 or 5 minutes of this period, the Jets had the legs and they had some jump, and they looked like they were going to erase the poor first period that they had. But unfortunately, that did not happen.
Not only did that not happen, a minute and 20 seconds later, the score is all tied up. Tim Wash, because, as you know, we're sitting there and we're trying to figure out, who this is exactly, because not exactly a household name, but he who gets the primary assist, former Jet. I should mention Ezzy because I did mention it on Twitter, but I thought it was interesting, right? You got Jacob Trouba, you got Jansen Harkins, and you've got Jeffrey VL. I was trying to think of who the third one was, but he was more of a moose.
Jeffrey, try the VL.
Exactly. But to me, I mean, this is just a play where the Jets there's poor execution. They have possession of the puck in their end, and they just don't pass the puck well. And so you're thinking to yourself, like, this is part of that whole, and I hate to use a Drewism, that attention to detail, but Hayden Fleury needs, like sometimes the team just does this with the puck, right? It's a little bit too much hot potato, and Hayden Fleury just caught puck watching. And so when he tries to get out of the zone and make the pass, he has to see that the Kyle Connor is covered. He's got no avenue there. So turn around. You have no pressure. Turn around, go back the other way, and try and feed the puck up the other wall, because all you're doing is throwing it into traffic, and you're basically just handing the puck away. There's just no value to that. So what do the Ducks do? They counterattack, and Jansen Harkin gets the puck, fires it on net. And I just, again, like I said, like, Fleury's just watching the puck, and he reacts too late, and then Washy basically puts it in. But it's just a tough look for the Jets, because it's just so, you don't really deserve to be where you are, and then you give up this goal.
Yeah, no, you make a good point, Dave, when you say it all starts with a poor clear out of your own zone, right? Like, you've got not really that much pressure on you, and then Fleury to Connor, and then it gets turned over in the neutral zone. And then, like, credit to former Jet Jansen Harkins. He stops up on Bryson and puts the puck on net. But like you said, Tim Wishy-Washy goes to the net, and like, what is I'm looking at right now, and like, Hayden Fleury's looking the other way, and he's just not taking his man, right? So it's a bad zone exit followed by poor defense in your own zone. So, I mean, that combination was not good, and that's what resulted in the goal.
Yeah. Although I'm not sure where the chat is watching, because as they seem to think that we're taking it easy on the Jets. And so far we've said that the Jets were outclassed, outplayed, and all we've done is talk about how good the Ducks played. So I don't know if sometimes if people listen to our show or they think that they're just see our lips moving and they think we're saying something that we're not really saying. But
yeah, Sparky Winnipeg thinks we're being too soft here, Dave.
I think people think we're being soft, but I've got to tell you, I don't think we're being soft at all. I think we've been pretty harsh. Like, we literally started the show. The tweet said they were outclassed. We said they were outclassed in the preamble. So again, like I said, maybe we're still being soft by
no, I don't think we are, Dave. Anybody who watched that game, like anybody who watched the game, would tell you that the Ducks were the better team. Like, you could literally go and look at the box score and see the shots and the score and see what were the final shots, 34-14 or something like that.
34-13.
34-13. And the final score is 4-1. So you could even and just watch the highlights and you would know that. But if you actually sat and watched this game, like we obviously did, Dave, then you would know how badly they were outplayed. So I don't think we're being too polite. I think we're calling it as it is. The Jets didn't show up tonight. Let's be clear here. This was a no-show. They did not show up tonight. They were badly outplayed. They had no response. The best players on the Jets were not their best players.
Exactly.
And like we talked about it, like Gus Nyquist was one of the better Jets forwards tonight. And he was out there on power play too. They didn't score. But, that's an issue when one of your worst forwards is your best forward against a Pacific Division leading team. That's going to be a problem. So obviously, we'll get into the Ducks' second goal, Dave, because it went from bad to worst after Tim Wishy-Washy's goal.
Well, we've actually spoken for longer since we just finished discussing the first goal against, and then trying to defend ourselves against the accusations of some members of our chat. And by the way, I don't mind if you're accusing us of that, but just make sure you smash that like button and you're subscribing to this channel. So,
Dave, I think the chat is turning on us.
Yeah. We've lost the chat, Ezzy.
We've lost the chat. What happened, guys? What happened? How do we get you back here? Chat, come on. Come on, get back on our side here.
The best is on Thursday. Drew goes to the show. Nobody's in the chat. They're like, "What?" He goes, "What happened? We lost it." Ezzy and I lost the chat. The chat's done with us. They have no interest.
I think we still have Frosty Winnipeg. Frosty Winnipeg hasn't turned on us, but I think everybody else has.
No, Doug's still. Doug said we were fine. I saw Doug's comment, so we'll rest in that one. Now Ryan Paling, who I was talking about when the last time the Jets and the Ducks played each other, he somehow, because this is what you do right after you give up a goal, is you give up another one. 14 seconds later, Alex Killorn takes a shot on net, and Ryan Paling gets to it. I'm not really sure here. I'm going to make a hard ass comment. I'm not really sure what the hell Dylan DeMello was doing on this play, because Josh Morrissey's in front and there's two guys in front. Dylan DeMello is nowhere to be found. So, I mean, it's a problem. It's just not a good play by him. It's not a good look. Again, the top line, Mark Scheifele's kind of trying to chase, but to me, I don't know what Dylan DeMello is doing. I really don't. I can't understand it. And he's a day late and $1 short. And within, a minute and 44 seconds, you find yourself now down 2-1.
Yeah. And that's the thing that's like, and we've talked about all these early goals hurting the Jets, right? But it's also are you seeing the big, yeah.
No, I saw Frosty's comment. That's good.
Oh, yeah,
Frosty says, I'm with you guys, but I'm also selling torches and pitchforks to the folks in the chat. That a boy, Frosty. Make sure you work both sides. I like it.
I like it too. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a few things here that I can touch on about this goal that I don't really like.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, like Dylan DeMello goes for a little bit of a skate. That's a good point. He's a little bit out of position here. He should be taking someone in front of the net. And what happens is Ryan Paling is obviously the player in front of the net with the tip. But I don't like how the Jets are chasing, right? Like they're not I think in good defensive structure. Yeah. And I think that's what takes them out of that, kind of has them running around a little bit. Mm-hmm. But it's a good tip. But again, like you're down, you're up 1-0, you're tied 1-1. You need to kind of settle this game down. And that's what I didn't think the Jets did. And all of a sudden they're on their heels. And then obviously we know what happens next.
Well, and again, you're right. And like I said, we'll just finish this off. But like Velarde's got the man on the wall. So DeMello really puts himself into a no man's land for no reason, leaving Morrissey to try and defend against two. And he's got the man in front of the net. But the problem is, we've talked about, Ryan Paling basically has the ability with the screen to just kind of go dink, and it's past Connor Hellebuck. Hard to see on the replay whether he had much of a shot at it, but there was quite a bit of traffic, with Josh Morrissey trying to clear the front of the net. So there's quite a bit of, but there's traffic in front of Hellebuck and taking away that shot. And actually, watching the replay, as I said that, you see Morrissey kind of knock the guy away, but it does take away Hellebuck's eyes. So tough play for the Jets. And you could just, I'm there, of course, sitting in our seat in the press box, and you felt the sag from the team, but you also felt the sag in the building. It just felt like, a minute, 2 minutes prior, you got a 1-0 lead or whatever it is. And now suddenly it's 2-1 for the Anaheim.
Well, and it wasn't surprising though, Dave, right? Like that's the thing, right? Like Anaheim deserved to be up a goal or even two goals, which obviously Alex Killorn, we'll get into the Killorn goal. He makes it 3-1, right? So it was one of those games where it wasn't like, it was a close game and okay, they go up on a quick goal and you're like, oh, okay, well, the Jets are going to come back and tie it up. This was a game, I think the shots were something like 17-7 at that point. Something really like that. Something lopsided.
Yeah.
So that, it was not at all, in doubt that the Ducks were the better team and should have been up. But like you said, there just didn't seem to be a calmness in their game at that point. Like they were very, like, I don't know. Like, I think you could look at it and you could say, well, the Jets just aren't a very good team and the Ducks are a good team. And they came in here and handed the Jets their lunch. But then there's part of me that just thinks also that the Jets just didn't play well. They didn't execute well. And that's something that they didn't give their best, even though the Ducks did. And that's one of the reasons why, one of the main reasons why they didn't win this game, because they obviously just, they didn't have the puck enough. They didn't have enough zone time, all of those things that we always talk about, right?
Yeah.
So, I guess we can get into the Killorn goal here, because this was also just a messy sequence in the Jet zone.
Well, and there are, the other thing is, you're right though, is that the one thing about this is it just felt like this to me was like blood in the water for the Ducks. Before we get into the Killorn goal, is just you could just sense that the Ducks, as soon as they got that second goal, as I said, the sag went in the building, but they were infused, they were ready to go, and they kept coming. And there was Jansen Harkins had a chance on a turnover. I mean, there were a lot of guys who were, the Jets were just, and this is a goal against the kind of an improvised, like Koepke was out there with like Velarde and I think Lambert, but it's just an unfortunate situation for the Jets because you look like you're about to get the puck out of the end, and Hayden Fleury had a bit of a rough night, bit of being a little bit generous, but this is just a soft play at the blue line, and you can't, Cole Koepke, who had a good game and played again from a defensive perspective, especially shorthanded. I thought he was very good. But you can't make that play. You can't make this play at the blue line, and it's just ineffective. And like I said, I like Cole Koepke. I think he's a player that you look to sign for next year.
I do too. Yeah, for sure.
But I just, like I said, I know what he's trying, but it's just, you can't make a soft play. You're down a goal. Don't have a ton of momentum. And Alex Killorn, even though he's, played a lot of games in his career, still a pretty good player. And he fires that one past Connor Hellebuck with our good friend Jeffrey hold the VL on the doorstep.
Yeah, like I think there's a few things, right? Like Ryan Poehling, who's a big boy, and congratulations to him. He recently signed a contract, which the reason why I mention it is because Poehling was a first-round pick of the Habs. Yeah. And if you remember, he really couldn't crack that roster. That's when the Habs kind of didn't really have good teams. Not like now when they actually have a good team. And
did he score 4 goals in his first game?
Yeah. But, nice for Poehling. I always like those guys that kind of bounce around a little bit, and it takes them a little bit longer to really have. And he's having I believe he's on pace for a career year, if I'm not mistaken. So wanted to mention that. But Poehling, like Hayden Fleury goes for a little bit of a skate, chases him around the net. Poehling does some good work along the boards here. But then the puck eventually comes to after Fleury gets a stick on it. Like you said, Koepke tries to poke it to Morgan Barron in the blue line. And it's just not hard enough. It's just a one-handed poke. And like you said, it's turned over. Poehling picks the puck up. And it gets to Alex Killorn, and he makes no mistake about it, right? And, on the topic of Killorn, and he's got the Stanley Cups and he's an older player. But to me, that's what's so impressive about this Ducks team is that they've brought in Chris Kreider. They've brought in Alex Killorn. They've brought in Radko Gudas to complement, I guess is a better word, the young Ducks players. So Killorn is an important, like going into the playoffs, like having guys like this, Jacob Trouba, guys that have playoff experience is huge, right? So I can't say it enough. And Dave, and a lot of the people in the chat know, I'm a Devils fan. Like I'm a little bit ashamed to admit that this year, but I'm not a Ducks fan. So it's not like I'm being paid by the Ducks to say this. I just call it like it is, and I'm being honest. I think this Ducks team is, I don't think they're going to win the Stanley Cup this year, but I also don't think they're going to be an easy out in the first round, whether they play, Seattle or, whoever, Edmonton, Vegas, whoever they end up playing, they're not going to be an easy out in the first round. But yeah, on this goal, it's just a costly turnover. Like you said, Dave, down a goal in the second period with Anaheim all over you all game. You just can't make that type of play. So again, we don't want to single Koepke out here, but obviously on that play, we kind of have to because he causes the turnover.
And you mentioned Seattle, Ezzy, but guess what? They're down 3-2 after 40 minutes to Nashville. Nashville has come back in that one and taken a 3-2 lead. So that one's going to hurt even more if they end up losing that hockey game, because you could have been down by 3. Again, coulda, woulda, shoulda, but still, I think it's somewhat topical, somewhat interesting. So
you're still losing points to Nashville, who's in front of you, though.
For sure, but at the same time, like it creates more of a bunching, right? And now,
sure, the worst thing that can happen is this game goes to extra time. If it goes to overtime, that's the worst thing that can happen. Said Captain Obvious.
Yeah, but anyways, it just comes down to the fact that this was a Jets team in the third period. I mean, I'm not certain there was a ton of stuff there. Like I don't know. They just didn't have. Like the one thing about Anaheim that's interesting, and one thing I know that Scott Arneal spoke about this morning when we were talking to him, was this idea that you don't want to get into a track meet with Anaheim. But the fact is, they weren't off. These goals weren't off the rush. That's the thing, right? It wasn't as if Anaheim was coming with speed, using that speed and scoring goals off the rush. they took advantage of mistakes and miscues, but I just thought it was interesting because it wasn't a traditional Ducks game. And if you look at Anaheim, and I know that folks are saying Anaheim's not a very good team, like, look, they score a lot of goals. They also give up a lot of goals. And one of the things that they've talked about, we were hearing from some of the folks, Eric Stevens, who covers the Ducks and has been covering them for years, just talked about how Joel Quenneville seems to be like the right coach at the right time. Like, he's the guy who it's kind of like the early years of the Blackhawks, where he had a lot of talent. They didn't necessarily have the defensive chops yet to be a Stanley Cup contender, but there's a lot of talent on the roster, and he kind of let them play out a little bit. And I think that you're seeing that with this Ducks team, is that, yes, as I said from the outset, they're minus 10 goal difference. They're in first place with a minus 10 goal differential.
That's very bizarre, Dave, because you always bring up the goal differentials, but there's a reason why you bring it up. Because I forget who it was that had this on social media. I saw this, but if you look at playoff teams versus non-playoff teams, and this might seem obvious, but playoff teams have a positive goal differential. Non-playoff teams have a negative goal differential. So goal differential is very much a strong indicator of team success. Right?
Absolutely.
So it's very bizarre that Anaheim has a negative 10 goal differential. And, on that topic, I believe the Jets have the best goal differential among all the teams that are currently chasing Seattle, if I'm not mistaken, right?
You are correct. Minus 14.
So that's so that's again something, if you look, tonight's loss was bad. The Ducks badly outplayed the Jets, but if you're looking for positives, it's that other teams in front of them lost, even though Nashville or Seattle, someone's going to gain a point on the Jets. Like, that's just a given when you have two teams that are ahead of them. But if you're looking for something positive, it's that goal differential for the Jets is actually pretty good for a non-playoff team right now.
Well, and the Anaheim Ducks one, which was minus 10 before tonight's game, is now minus 7. So I think there's only one other team. Well, Seattle might be a negative goal differential as well, although they could be out of the playoffs. Yeah, they're minus 9. So they could be out. Although if Nashville can't actually pass them because they'll get to 66. LA tied them because they lost in overtime. So LA now has 67 points as well. They played 64 games though. Seattle's only played 62, but they have a minus 9 goal differential. I will say the other thing, Ezzy, we should mention, even though this is not a Red Wings show, but Red Wings, who are the only team in the East, even though they're in the playoffs, have they're minus 2 goal differential. But Dominic Shine, all those years in the AHL, gets up to the NHL, played his first game, I want to say a few weeks back, and he scored his first NHL goal. So that's kind of you talk about guys who've kind of toiled for years trying to get an opportunity. Dominic Shine, he gets his chance after playing all those years with the Grand Rapids Griffins, and he gets a goal. But this isn't Griffin's lunch, Ezzy. This isn't the Griffin's nest.
Well, Dominic Shine, obviously part of the all car wash team.
He is definitely a member of the all car wash team.
Tim Washy.
I was going to say Tim Washy could be a member of that. And who's also washed? The Winnipeg Jets. The Jets are washed after today's effort. Losing, we're not going to go over the fourth goal. It was a long distance shot. That's all we'll say from Jackson Lacombe. He gets his 8th assist to Jacob Trouba. So I think, actually, no, Jeffrey Viel didn't get anything. So Harkins got an assist. Trouba got an assist. The Jets lose 4-1. A tough loss, unless you're part of the ethical tank. The ethical tank folks, they're happy. They were a little concerned with all those wins in a row. No regulation losses.
But hold on. But the ethical tank, or the tank folks, now that the Jets are only 5 points back, like now that the Jets have put themselves in a better position, you have to think some of those people are hoping that the Jets make the playoffs now. No,
I don't think so. Now here's why I would say otherwise, because let's be realistic, Ezzy. This team against Colorado, which we're going to see on Saturday, or this team against Dallas, or this team against Minnesota. Because remember that this team is going to end up playing the Central team. So if you do, I'm sorry, you're going to get just hammered. It's going to be hammer time. You're going to be washed, if you will. I should stick with that same sort of reference. So, I mean, it's one thing if you could get into the Pacific and maybe play Vegas or Edmonton or even Anaheim, who are all imperfect in some way. But I don't think any of those 3 Central teams are going to be, anything to be trifled with. I don't think it'll any of these teams that play one of those central teams I think is going to get hammered. So that's my own assessment. And that's why I think the ethical tank folks are going to be happy that this team is not going to, the illusion of close to the playoff line isn't going to be, but hey, we've still got a lot of games to go and we've still got a lot of post-game shows to go. So folks, don't go anywhere because we're going to, shout out to our sponsors and let you hear some commercials from and some words from them. But we want you to stick around. Ezzy and I will have some final thoughts. We'll have some discussion. The Moose, speaking of teams that you care about, because I know because you follow my coverage, the Manitoba Moose coming off a weekend sweep here in Winnipeg, out in Abbotsford taking on the defending Calder Cup champions. I will let you know what the Moose are doing, Ezzy, although I know some folks in the chat are paying attention because I saw their comments already. But if you don't have an idea as to what's going on, stay tuned for that after the words from our sponsors. And while you're waiting, just make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to this channel.
I want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling site instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now you might have questions like,
Do our profits benefit your community?
No.
or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. City Place is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Centre. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make City Place your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime. Visit City Place at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Centre. Boys, I've made an important life decision, and I need your support.
Oh, boy.
I've decided to get a grill.
You mean a barbecue grill for cooking? Like, that's not an important life decision, Ezzy.
No. A grill for my teeth.
A grill for your teeth? Do I even want to know why you're doing this?
It's simple, really. Every time I go to Holt Dental, I get treated so very well by Dr. John and his team that I need to keep finding additional reasons to go back. I rely on Holt Dental for all of my dental needs, and they do it all, from regular cleanings to cosmetic dentistry. Plus, they have free parking at their front door, and you know how much I love my convenient parking.
For all your dental needs, Illegal Curve recommends Holt Dental, conveniently located on Taylor Avenue near Grant Park Mall. For more information, visit them online at holtdental.ca.
For over 40 years, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has been Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy. Renowned in the comedy world as a must-play venue, Rumors has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers, wedding socials, and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase show tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
Hey Winnipeg, Joe Carter here. I look forward to joining you in Winnipeg on June 4th for the Ray D. JCC Ken Cronson Sports Dinner. See you in June. Don't be late.
At Boston Pizza, a fast lunch doesn't have to mean fast food. Now you can get a $15 lunch served in just 20 minutes, including your choice of a main, side, and drink. That's right, lunch for $15 at your local Boston Pizza.
Welcome back to the Illegal Curve post-game show. I'm Dave Manouk. He's Ezzy Ginsberg. And we just finished breaking down the Jets' first loss after the Olympic break. They've lost 4-1 to the Anaheim Ducks, Ezzy. And the Jets will be next in action. They're scheduled to practice tomorrow. The practice is at 12 noon. So check out illegalcurve.com first thing in the morning. Of course, we'll have the morning papers for you with all the latest news. And then we will bring you everything that happens at practice that starts at noon. And then we'll have the everything Jets related contained in the practice report.
Sounds good.
So And it's like, great, fantastic. Will next be, of course, in action.
No, I was saying, sounds good. I'm looking forward to it. I appreciate all the hard work that you do. The show goes on and on. Just, hey, Dave, one game ends. We're already focused on the Jets and Rangers, right? Like
I was going to say that, and that's when we'll next be in action, Ezzy. Jets and Rangers Thursday night. That is back to a normal time. Nobody still seems to know why this Jets game was at 7:30. By the way, maybe they're doing.
I was thinking that too. It's very bizarre.
It is bizarre. Maybe that's what threw the Jets off. People, let's come up with some excuses here. But
because it's a weekday game.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
It's a TSN game. All the TSN games are usually at 7:00 Central.
Yeah.
Right. Like I'm not sure. I was really trying to. It's funny, Dave. It's like when you really have nothing, when you're trying to like figure out why it's kind of like you can't really spend too much time thinking about it but it kind of screws everything up a little bit, right? Because everyone that's a Jets fan obviously reorganizes their schedule around the Jets games, right? So that extra half an hour kind of, I guess folks were just, I don't know, maybe, catching up on some chores around the house. I'm not sure what was going on, but regardless, this is definitely a game that you want to flush down the toilet.
For sure. And I mean, I hope Sparky Winnipeg is really not taking us seriously he says, blame the game on time change. I don't think we are. But I will say, speaking of the games, and let's shift our focus, Ezzy. The interesting thing also, and I'm not sure your perspective on this, but it's something I've been giving some thought to, is the fact that I wrote about it on the website, illegalcurve.com, was just the fact that the Jets have 2 recalls up from the Moose. They have Brad Lambert and Elias Salamonson. But they don't have any extra forwards. Right now, they only have 12 forwards. And one of the things I guess we could mention, because I think it is probably notable from a health perspective, because Scott Arneal was asked, shockingly not by me, I was going to ask him, but then Kenny Weeb got in on that one before I did. But he asked for health updates, and this is what Arneal had to say. Neal and Millsy, a.k.a. Colin Miller, are kind of on a day or 1 or 2 days on and then taking a couple days off, but they're still a little ways away. Nino and Vladdy got on the ice today for the first time, but that was just pushing pucks around, getting a feel for the puck. They're still a ways away too. So interesting. Doesn't sound like there's any reinforcements coming. With Nino Niederreiter, not surprising. He did have surgery, but the other 3, I thought maybe Pionk or Nemestikov because Nemestikov was never put on IR. I thought maybe there was a chance, but it doesn't sound like either any of those guys are going to be anytime soon. And interestingly, the Jets are only keeping 12 forwards right now. They have no extras. They've only got the 1 extra on defense, which is Ville Heinola. And part of the reason why is that if they have to make right now they're at home, it's not a big deal. The Moose are in Abbotsford tonight and tomorrow. Then they go to Calgary for Friday and Sunday. So they're close enough if they need to make a recall. But one of the things I was thinking about is that if they do make an emergency recall, then they don't have to use one of those 3 slots to bring a forward up if one of their forwards go down. So that's just something noticeable. If they want to make a guy available, obviously, then they have to make a recall.
Right. They're lucky, Dave, in the sense that they're currently on an 8-game homestand, right? Because they don't have to use one of those recalls, because if there's an injury, that's when you would be forced to call somebody up from the Moose who happen to play in the same building. I realize they're not playing in Winnipeg tonight, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, they're close. They're close enough that it's if you lose someone. I mean, to be honest with you, especially once they get to Abbotsford's a little more difficult. Not difficult, but it's a little more. They don't have as many flights. But once you get to Calgary, there's like a flight every 2 hours from Calgary.
Yeah. So I mean, if God forbid, there is an injury, that's what I think you'll see happening. And I think it's good that you brought that up, Dave, because I think there were some folks that were a little bit confused when Chevy brought that up. He was already talking about recalls and everything like that. Because it's so that Salamonson and Lambert can be playoff eligible in the AHL.
Yes.
Right. So that's the reason. But you're right. I mean, they're kind of playing with fire a little bit by not having an extra forward up, but it's not like you said. I think they'll fly somebody in from the West Coast if they need to. If there's an injury, but I like you said, Niederreiter, not surprising, because we heard that his timeline was 4 to 6 weeks, I believe.
Yeah.
That kind of takes him to early April, right?
Yeah.
And then, with Nemestikov, we weren't as clear, so that's unfortunate that he's not going to come back. But look, it goes to what, Scott Arneal and Chevy have been talking about. Chevy was on with Sarah during the first intermission, whether it's a Brad Lambert, whether it's a Roseanne, whether, it's Jacob Bryson on the back end, there's opportunity for guys who might not otherwise be in the lineup, right? So in that sense, it's a good development opportunity for some of these younger players.
Absolutely. And like we said, I just find it interesting to see what they're planning on doing. I mean, will Tyrell Bauer get his chance? Will Braden Yager get a chance? Will Danny Zhilkin come up? I mean, Frosty Winnipeg still in the chat. He'll be excited to see potentially Danny Zhilkin get his.
Do you think it would be Zhilkin if there is an injury? Do you think I was thinking it would be Dewar or Zhilkin?
Yes, I would. Yes, that is if the Jets
depends who gets injured too, right, Dave?
Yeah, Sparky. It's not Gustafson. He's missed the last 5 games, including tonight. So Gustafson is not going to be a recall option right now. No, and Ezzy, you're absolutely right. It's going to be Walker Dewar or Danny Zhilkin. There's no question about it. Those would be the two players that get called up. If you're going to do T. Konopoli saying Bauer just got robbed in Abbotsford, well, we'll have to check that one out. I mean, remember T. Kona, speaking of Tyrell Bauer, 2 things. One, he's obviously getting the illegal curve bump. It is real, just so you know. And secondly, T. Konopoli, you'll be happy to know it's in my office right now. I do have a bobblehead, a Tyrell Bauer bobblehead, specifically for T. Konopoli. So T. Kona, I don't think I can get.
Guess you don't have one for me.
I never said I don't have one for you yet, Ezzy. I did try and I did make a request to get a few. So we'll see what I can do. Parker Ford, as Doug is asking, I'm not certain. See, remember, you only have 3 more options. So remember, they may want to get DiVincentis a game. So this is where the emergency element versus the 3 recalls go. But I mean, if you're the Jets, do you want to get DiVincentis a game? Do you want to get Braden Yager a game? Yager is less important because he's only a first-year pro.
Colby Barlow too is a guy that I've mentioned to you a couple times, Dave, that I'll be curious to see if he gets a few games, depending on what happens here in these next 4 or 5 games, right? Because obviously if the Jets, become mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, then I think you're going to see, players come up sooner rather than later, right? But just Barlow's another guy that I would keep an eye on.
Well, to me, the funny part is, I mean, I'd say you bring them all up, but the problem is you don't have the option, right? You only have 3 more regular slots and 1. Obviously, and then the emergency conditions that exist. So you could sneak a guy in with an emergency condition, I'm sure. I know that John Chan just said, what about Gustafson? He is dealing with an injury. He's missed 5 straight games. So he's been out for quite a bit. So he's going to take some time. But the Moose, I will say quickly, and I'm not watching the game because I've been doing this post-game show, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it, Ezzy. But the Moose are, in fact, winning in Abbotsford. And the Moose tried to emulate the Winnipeg Jets a little bit too much in that first period. They got outshot 9-1. Thomas Milic, he comes off a shutout. They swept the Toronto Marlies, I should mention, over the weekend. They beat them 3-2 and then 1-0. So Thomas Milic gets the net back. There weren't really many changes other than some movement. Defensive pairings were all the same, which isn't a surprise given that they won. Fabian Wagner came back in for Tyson Empey, but the Moose eventually got rolling. Samuel Fogamo, he scored to open it up 1-0. And then Parker Ford, he got the second goal. So the Moose are up 2-0 in the third. There's about, let's see how much time is left. 12:50. Oh, sorry. Breaking news, as it is currently 3-0 for the Manitoba Moose, who got that. Nikita Chibrikov got his 4th goal of the season. So it is.
Moose are hot right now. I like it.
Well, not only are they hot, they're scoring goals, because the one thing the Moose weren't doing, even though they're one of the best defensive teams in the AHL, is that offensively they weren't scoring. You know what helps? Playing one of the worst teams in the AHL. The Abbotsford Canucks, I'm not saying that they're shorthanded right now, but they're going 11-7, and one of their 11 is actually a defenseman. One of their 11 forwards is actually a defenseman playing right wing. So the Moose are hoping to take advantage of this, because Manitoba is making up some ground. They've played a few fewer games in Texas and Milwaukee, and the teams that are kind of in and amongst themselves right now. So the Moose are going to make up some ground, and we'll see if, in fact, they can continue to roll. Look good. Looks like this one's a fait accompli. 3-0 for the Manitoba Moose. They'll be back in action tomorrow night against the same Abbotsford Canucks. So we'll see if they can keep it rolling against the defending Calder Cup champions. But for the Winnipeg Jets, not as good news. They end up losing 4-1 to the Anaheim Ducks. I'm going to give Ezzy some last words.
Well,
if he has any.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, when you say you're going to throw me some last words, Dave, I have to say something, right? So, yep. I mean, we'll see what the Jets can do on the rest of this homestand, because tonight was disappointing. The Rangers should be a team that you beat. It just should be a team that you beat. I'm not going to say handily, because I mean, the Jets aren't a good enough team that, you know, they can really do that against anybody. They had trouble with the Canucks, right? So the Vancouver Canucks, not the Abbotsford Canucks, even though there were some players that have previously played on Abbotsford, right? But well, that's what I'll be curious to see, how they rebound against the Rangers, because like we talked about at the beginning of this homestand, even going 7-1 wasn't necessarily going to cut it. So really, you know, they're going to have to win these last 4 games here. I mean, if they really want to get back into a playoff spot. So basically, how quickly can they flush this loss? Because tonight's effort was not a good effort. That's kind of what I'm looking forward to. But even though they have slim playoff hopes, I'm still going to, you know, keep my internal hope alive that this Jets team can make the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think you're right, absolutely right. And I think that ultimately this Jets team has to, like you said, have a short memory. I mean, it's not as if, I mean, remember, you beat Chicago and you beat Vancouver. You didn't beat juggernauts. Now you beat Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay evidently loves to, the best was when Scott Arneal said, you know, there's not really good this time of the year, we got to play low scoring game. And I'm like, did you watch the Tampa Bay Buffalo game, Scott? Because that was anything but low scoring. But anyways, so yeah, we'll see. That one was a little bit of a outlier, because so far the Chicago and Vancouver games were a little tougher for the Winnipeg Jets. So anyways, it was a not a great effort, outclassed, outchanced, and outscored, which is ultimately in hockey is the most important factor of all them all. For Ezra Ginsburg, I'm Dave Minuk. My big thanks to all of our sponsors. You know who they are, and I'm too tired to, as you want to do the sponsor read? You know all the sponsors, Ezzy.
Yeah, sure. Well, let's start off with the title sponsor of the show, Play Now. They are the title sponsor of all of our post-game shows and the Saturday show. So let's give Play Now a big shout out and a big thanks. Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Boston Pizza, Holt Dental, Wheatland Hockey, City Place, and the 51st annual Rady JCC dinner.
There you go. From his memory. Very well done, Mr. Ginsburg. Very well done from everyone in the chat. We thank you for joining us. We thank you for spending your time listening to this broadcast. We appreciate you when you join us each and every time we go live here on the Illegal Curve post-game show. That's it for now. The illegalcurve.com will have all the latest from the Jets game. It'll have all the latest from the Moose game. It'll have all the latest from Colby Spence. Shout out to us for showing up every game. That is, well, Colby, you're paid to show up, but we appreciate when you show up nonetheless. And Doug, as he mentioned, Wheatland. So Wheatland Hockey, will give them another shout out. But as he did mention, Wheatland for sure. And like I said, everything on the Jet from the Jets and the Moose, that'll be on illegalcurve.com. We'll be back in action again after this on the website tomorrow morning and on the shows Thursday after the Jets and the Rangers around. What time is that going to be? That's back to normal, as 9:40, 9:45. So in the interim, make sure you're following, make sure you're subscribing, make sure you're commenting, and make sure you're liking. And those are all the things we ask you to do each and every time you join us after an Illegal Curve broadcast. For Ezra Ginsburg, I'm Dave Minuk, and we will see you soon. Have a good rest of your evening. We'll talk again very soon.